climate.
I'm sorry that I'm late. For the record, my son-in-law works on the staff of our boxer. And he works on climate.
Okay. But that's part of transportation, too.
Yeah. And if you're at a family dinner, global warming is a fact. Unless you want to have a big fight, which my wife often wants to with my son-in-law. And I'm like gold and some other things. You have shaken a lot of hands with people who probably got a cold and some other things. I don't think I'm infectious. It's bronchitis, but and I missed the first question about the stimulus. I guess, you know, what I'm interested in overall, and probably all these questions build up to it, is everybody knows all the bad figures about the economy and the number of people out of work. We all know a lot of people out of work, and we all know people who think they'll never go back to work. I met a guy that used to work here in the IT department, 53 years old. He worked here when I was here in the late 70s, early 80s. He got laid off by a big company here, and he said he retired. And I said, why did you do that? He said, my prospects are going back to work. Just, you know, so sounds like he's given up, but I'm certain that you hear this and face it everywhere. There seems to be, I don't know, it's widespread, but a sentiment of what we have here isn't working. That you know, no one knows exactly what's going to happen with healthcare, how it's going to affect us. Our rates are going to go up 22%, I think. Am I right? Yeah. They were at one point, looked like they might be 30-something. I have a business in Maine. They're going up only 7. They started out at 18. And so you got all that. I mean, there's just, there is a sense that what's happening in Washington with the Obama administration, and probably all Democrats are being painted with the same brush, that it's not working. And so how do you, what's the message that says, well, it is working or isn't working, but here's what I'm doing to try to make it work?
I just answered those questions, actually.
There are all these questions about, but how do you, I understand that you just answered, how do you overcome that? I mean, how do you say you're not part of this problem?
Well, first of all, my record is public. You know, whatever I've done in terms of legislation and said publicly is public. So you know where I am and the sorts of legislation that I supported and stood for. But it's also, Richard, just doing the sort of the common sense things that affect, you know, the 10th district, which is my purview. I mentioned it before you got here about the closing. Putting an amendment in the defense authorization bill that actually enables helmet manufacturers in northeast and central Pennsylvania to compete on a level playing field with the federal prison industries that had basically a no-bid contract on making helmets for our military. You know, looking for those kinds of opportunities. You know, just doing the understanding and knowing your district, and then pursuing policies that make sense that way. And when you have, as I mentioned before, when you have a tax loophole that actually encourages people to send jobs overseas, close those things. That doesn't make any sense. You know, we will emerge from this economy at some point, you know, from this recession at some point. You know, it's by almost every estimate the second worst downturn in the history of the country, and it's those that have come out bold and look for beyond the horizon. Those are the ones that are going to succeed. And what you need is somebody working in Washington who understands and knows the district and can find those opportunities to create the jobs, or to change some of the legislation that impedes job creation. You know, and that's what I've done. So to get that message out, I go out every day and talk about it. You know, I talk about it to constituents. I talk about it on our campaign ads. I talk about it in ed boards. So it's, people want to see that somebody's actually working on their behalf, and that's what we're doing.
But do you, if someone said, is the plan of the Obama administration, where he's had, you know, where he's had the votes in the Senate and the House, is it working? Is his plan to, we're deeper into Afghanistan than we were before he took office? Mm-hmm. Is it working? Well, what do you say to say, this is an administration that's working, I am part of it by party, by affiliation of party, right, and it's working, or it isn't working?
Well, it's not as simple as, yes, it's working, or no, it's not working. You have to look at what is working and what isn't. You know, and that's where we make adjustments. You know, you just mentioned Afghanistan. To be honest, that is the thing that I lose sleep over, is Afghanistan. But it's the Afghan-Pakistan nexus that I really lose sleep over, because they have nuclear weapons. And Al-Qaeda has promised that if they ever got their hands on a nuclear weapon, that they would use it against U.S. interests, either here or abroad somewhere. Now, I think most of you know that I spent a lot of my adult life doing counterterrorism work all over that region, and I know the problem pretty well. The Pakistani government doesn't have the kinds of controls on their nuclear weapons that we, the United States, have. I mean, you know, just physical controls and political controls. And one of the problems that we see is at least a percentage, a portion of the ISI, the Iraqi Intelligence Service, may be sympathetic to the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And do they have access to the nuclear weapons? I mean, that's an issue. And of course, their nukes are pointed at India. And you know, you've really got a problem here. And we saw what happened at the end of '08, in November of '08, when Lashkar-e-Taiba group out of the Kashmir region attacked Mumbai. You know, that almost led to a war between India and Pakistan right there. It took a lot of folks intervening to prevent that. Okay, that's an issue. And then you have the federally administrated tribal area, which is where a lot of this is going on. You know, look, I'm very familiar with it. When I'm on active duty, I fly Predator and Reaper missions over that area, so we understand and know the problem. But if we don't get a handle on it, it will come back and affect the West in such a way you wouldn't believe, especially if the Taliban or Al-Qaeda get their hands on a nuclear weapon. In Afghanistan, it's actually, I don't want to say simple, but let me describe it in terms of this, the nature of the problem. Richard, you have a pomegranate farm next to my goat farm in Afghanistan. My goats are crossing the lousy fence we have up and eating your pomegranates. So you come to me and say, Carney, take care of those goats. And I don't take care of the goats, and they come across and eat your pomegranates. You go down to the local magistrate, and the magistrate says, yeah, I'll take care of Carney for you if you give me a few shekels. And you don't have a few shekels to give. So then you go to the Taliban, and they'll say, okay, we'll help you. The Taliban comes to me and says, Carney, we're going to kill you, we're going to kill your family, and we're going to eat your goat if you don't keep it out of Connor's pomegranate field. Are you happy with the Taliban now? Yeah, you are. Am I scared to death of them? Yes, I am. Because I've seen them kill my neighbors and kill their neighbors' goats. So it's about justice. It's about bringing justice in Afghanistan. Now, how many of you saw the cover of Newsweek a few weeks ago with a mutilated woman? You know, they cut her nose off and her ears off. You know, that's what we're looking at here. I mean, that's the kind of regime that if we don't get a handle on it, we'll go back to. So, you know, there's a lot at stake in terms of what we stand for as a nation, but also in terms of just our strategic security if the Taliban or the remnants of Al-Qaeda actually get a nuclear weapon.
So is that an area in which you have some disagreement with the Obama administration and what to do next?
I think setting a hard, firm timeline, I don't agree with that. You know, I think that's wrong. I think we need to have clear, measurable metrics on